You can pass.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you can please rise for the national anthem. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, let me thank the Prime Minister for being here for the fourth time, thrice in the opposition, and now in his own right as Prime Minister. And for saying that he would be the future Prime Minister of Pakistan, we had a lot of tax problems from the previous governments. The format will be that we'll first request somebody, a representative of the WEF, kindly Ermi Ergens, who will speak from the WEF side. Then we'll have Mr. Ali Akhai from Martin Dow. And then Zarar Saigal will introduce the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister will speak for a few 20-25 minutes. Then there'll be a question-answer session. And at the end of that, I will then thank him and thank all the other guests. That will conclude. So with that, we request Jeremy.
I want to carry the voice. Mike, can everyone hear me? Yes. Great. So I'm Jeremy Jurgens from the World Economic Forum. I'd like to thank His Excellency, the Prime Minister, for joining us here today, as well as our many friends and partners from around the world that are joining us here. In particular, I'd like to give special thanks to the Pathfinder Group for hosting this event for 12 years now, and more recently joined by Martin Dow. It is very helpful to be able to bring so many people and give them a much richer and better understanding of Pakistan and Pakistan's role in the world. And this is closely aligned with the forum's own work. Today, we cover over 18 major areas where we're helping to advance digital transformation in the economy and society, where we're looking at how to shape the future of the energy system, how to address food security, and improved agricultural programs, as well as employment and skills. And today, I'll put it very simply. We believe that Pakistan has a good strategy. It has a clear economic strategy, it has a clear social strategy, and it's underpinned by a commitment to good governance. We believe that this foundation will improve the benefits and prosperity for everyone in Pakistan, as well as contribute to peace and stability throughout the region. I'd like to highlight in particular two specific initiatives where we're working closely in collaboration with the government and with the business community. First, many of you may have seen our commitment to plant 1 trillion trees over the next decade. We believe in doing so that this will bring us to a quarter of the necessary carbon reductions to achieve the climate goals. Clearly, you can't just plant trees. There's other work needed in finance, in the energy system, and so on. But this can make a major contribution to doing that. Here, we're working closely with Pakistan and aligned with the tree tsunami, as it may be, right, in Pakistan's own commitment in this regard. The second area, where is closely tied in with our efforts, is a commitment to 1 billion jobs in the next 10 years. How do we provide people the skills, whether it's at the primary level, tertiary level, or people who are in transition to reskill the skills that they need to compete and contribute in the new economy. And again, last July in Islamabad, we launched with the Prime Minister a Global Skills Accelerator, which is part of a national or a global network of similar activities. And here we'll be working in the coming years to contribute directly to Pakistan's growth. So thank you very much for joining us here and the commitment from everyone in the audience. And we look forward to the discussion this morning.
Thank you, Jeremy. Ali?
Honorable Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Imran Khan, Chairman, Pathfinder Group, Mr. Ikram Saigal, Co-Chairman, Pathfinder Group, Mr. Zarar Saigal, Honorable Ministers, esteemed guests and visitors, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to all of you. I'm here today only because of my father, the founding chairman of Martindale Group, Mohammad Javed Akai, and his patriotism towards his country. And I'm proud to say that those values are also instilled in me. Mohammad Javed Akai never missed an opportunity to project the positives of his country at any forum. In 2013, when Martindale was selected as a global growth company of the World Economic Forum, we were the only pharmaceutical organization to be here. Since then, he never looked back. He believed that collaboration is the key in creating a safer, well-integrated world. And it's been 5 years since Martindale and Pathfinder Group have partnered to bring the positive narrative of Pakistan to this elite global village of intellectuals, with the mission to make this world a better place through open dialogue and communication, so together we can project the true face of Pakistan. Thank you, Ikram sir.
Thank you. I think as introductions go, this should be very easy. I think the Prime Minister, who we are delighted to have over here on behalf of the Pathfinder Group and Martindale, is known to the entire world. Starting his career as a renowned cricketer, a fearless all-rounder, then captain of the Pakistan cricket team. And I know everybody mentions the famous World Cup win, which was Pakistan's only World Cup win in 1992. But for me personally, the Test team of the late 80s was the greatest achievement you had as a cricketer. I think that was absolutely the best team, in my view, in the world at that time. The West Indies stole that series from us. You know the one I'm talking about. After that, after retirement, a philanthropist. Everybody is familiar with the story of Shaukat Khanum Hospital, the cancer hospital that the Prime Minister built in honor of his mother, providing free cancer care to almost now 75% of the people. There are now multiple cancer Shaukat Khanum hospitals that will be in Pakistan, one in Peshawar, another one coming up in Karachi. And then finally, as politician, spent a lot of time in the opposition, and finally has now become Prime Minister of our country. A year or 2 years ago, when we were sitting over here, I said Pakistan is at a crossroads. I don't think that's true anymore. I think the path has been taken by this government. The path has been set by the Prime Minister. It is a tough path. It is replete with a lot of issues, but it is the right path for Pakistan because it puts Pakistan for long-term growth, economic prosperity, and political stability. And putting a security situation, I think we all, when an outsider looks at Pakistan, is often confused, especially our friends. It's a land of immense potential. A young population, many natural resources, copper, gold, natural gas, a beautiful country. I know the Prime Minister talks about the mountains a lot because that's his favorite thing, but down south there are wonderful beaches. You go past some of the beaches in Karachi, and there's beautiful marine blue water, pink sands of the sort that people spend thousands of dollars to go to European resorts and resorts in the Caribbean, and we have it all. And what has been lacking? One single thing: governance. And that's what the Prime Minister has brought. And we are very proud of you, and we wish you the best. And with that, I'll let you take over. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Ikram Saigal. He is instrumental in getting me here. Otherwise, the sum of $450,000 for 2 nights was, I would not have burdened my government for this huge amount for 2 nights. So Ikram Sehgal got together and with Imran Chaudhry, my other friend, and so they sponsored it. So it's the cheapest any Pakistani Prime Minister has ever come to Davos. But even before this, Ikram always invited me because he wanted Pakistan's point of view to come across to the international audience, and especially Davos, where you have world leaders in business and economy and political leaders. So I have been here before. And I always found that this is, Davos is such a gathering of people. Normally you would sort of meet such people over a period of 6 months, a year, traveling around. But here in one place, you tend to meet people, who you can learn from, who you can interact with. So, Ikram, thank you very much for inviting me here and being a partial sponsor of my visit. Let me just, first, just a brief thing about myself. So, you understand how what my motivation is and how I function. There were far more talented cricketers than me when I started my cricketing career. And when I started, a lot of people were skeptical. I was dropped after my first test match I played, and I was butt of all the jokes of the cricket team. And then it took me 3 years to get back into the team. And then, I, like anyone who competes at that international level, you learn probably the most valuable lesson which any human being can learn in order to succeed in life. And that is the ability to face the bad times. What decides how much a human being will fulfill his potential in life depends upon his ability to face the bad times. Because problem is very talented, educated people with much greater potential than me. I found that the reason why they could not achieve their potential in life because they could not face the bad times. People gave up. An easy, comfortable life is a disaster for human potential. People who have inherited wealth, I have very rarely found them achieving their potential in life. Life is too easy. When I played cricket, I went to the most privileged school in Pakistan with the best facilities. We had coaches, the best cricket ground, probably no school would have a cricket ground like that. But the boys from my school could not compete with those boys who played in the streets, who played under the lights. Our boys could not compete with them because they did not have the hunger. They did not have the drive. And it's that drive that actually propels people to achieve their potential. I built this university in Pakistan, the first private sector university in a rural area. And I built it with one intention, that the underprivileged people who had no chance of having higher education, they must be given an opportunity. The university I built was affiliated with Bradford University in England because I was the chancellor of Bradford University. So we affiliated it with that university. The boys who studied, and girls who are studying in Namal University come from poor backgrounds. 75% from Urdu, 80% Urdu medium schools, studying an English university degree. And first year they struggled. We used to have to teach them English, to give them foundation course. They struggled the first year. Second year, they sort of stabilized. And in Bradford University, the average first divisions are about 12%, 13% maximum. In Namal University, the same Bradford University degrees, examined by Bradford University professors, they got between 55 to 60% first divisions. Poor background people who didn't even have strong basics because they had greater motivation. They had greater hunger. So in sport, I learned how to compete. And the valuable lesson, face the bad times. So I give you an example. Once we got thrashed by India. We went to India to play a series. We got thrashed. So now the team is on the way back to Pakistan. And what is the discussion going on in the dressing room? How to get to Pakistan in the middle of the night so that there would be no one at the airport. When we arrived at the airport at 4 a.m. in the morning, the custom people made us stand there for 2 hours, confiscated everything, and they made sure that it was light enough so that when we got out, the taxi drivers sort of gave us hell. And yet at the same airport, I arrived 7 years later, having beaten India. And we never even made it to the customs. There were 150,000 people at the airport to receive us. Wow. So you see, when you have these ups and downs in life, the most valuable lesson, you never lose your head when you go up, and you know the dynamics of coping with the bad times. So the difference and my philosophy. I was 9 years old when I wanted to be a test cricketer. I watched my first cousin. My mother took me to this match in Lahore. He scored a century against England. And I looked at him and I said, I want to be a test cricketer. And it never occurred to me that I would never become a test cricketer. I always thought it was a matter of time. I never realized the struggle I had to go through. Similarly, when my mother died of cancer, I didn't realize there was not a cancer hospital in Pakistan. And then I realized that, I could take my mother out for cancer treatment. What happened to the 95% of the people in the country? So that's when I decided I would build a cancer hospital. I have to confess I was never much of a charity type of a guy. I was not into really giving people, because basically the philosophy of professional sport is that there are no prizes for coming second. You do not have compassion for the losers. So it was actually watching that pain that I decided, watching my mother suffer, I decided I wanted to build this hospital. And I'd never realized how difficult it would be. 4 years of running around, I wasn't getting anywhere. And then Mr. Razak Daud is sitting here. He was on the board of governors, and he knows the meeting. We called 20 doctors of Lahore, top doctors, and said, look, how do we go about building this cancer hospital? And this is after 4 years of running around like a headless chicken. And out of 20, 19 said you can't build a cancer hospital in Pakistan. And one said that you might be able to build it. You cannot give free treatment to poor cancer patients because it's very expensive treatment. So my dream was to build the hospital. And so what I went through, the things I had to do, was the greatest learning experience in my life. And eventually when we built the hospital, just to give you an idea now, the hospital was built in 700 million rupees. The annual loss the hospital suffers for treating 75% of the cancer patients free, which was my dream. It wasn't just the dream of building a hospital. It was that poor people should get free treatment. The annual loss is 10 billion rupees. Hospital bill for 700 million, annual loss is 10 billion. So imagine, I mean, had I had someone told me that, look, this is what you, after building it, you would have to spend 10 billion collecting every year. And then I decided to go to politics. Everyone laughed at me. There's no precedence of, in a two-party system, a third party coming through. There's no precedent. Look at England. Look at the US. You can't break through because they are entrenched. They have systems, a third party, an outsider. So for 15 years, people laughed at me. 15 years, I was butt of all the jokes in politics. Here was me sincerely going around, look, we want good people to come. Let's all good people get together. And I didn't realize that the good people were the most cowardly people. They were scared of coming into politics. So anyway, the thing is, the Almighty has given all of us tremendous potential. We are His greatest creation, Ashraful Makhlukat. Problem is, we don't know this. And we let ourselves down. Because that potential, we only achieve that potential if we know how to struggle. We only achieve that potential if we have these big dreams. And whatever the human mind can picture can happen. This is how much potential all of us have. Problem we face is that we give up on the way. When the bad time comes, we put up our hands and say, we have a plan B. The human potential, the bigger the dream, the bigger the struggle, but you achieve it when you do not have a plan B. There is no going back. You have to burn your boats. Whenever you go after a big ambition, you should never, never, never think of compromising on that dream. So now I come to my dream of Pakistan. You see, I believe, and I always believe, because I grew up in 60s when you cannot imagine the optimism we grew up with about Pakistan. It was one of the fastest growing countries. Our head of state, Ayub Khan, went to the United States. The president of the US came to receive him at the airport. He had a ticker tape reception, open car, people throwing, how they greet those people in the US. He goes to England, he's treated like royalty. Pakistan, there was hope. People believed the country had potential. It was the fastest growing country in the 60s in Asia. We were a model for development. South Korea came to Pakistan, Malaysia. They looked upon us. In HSN, I studied with Malaysian princes. Our university degrees were recognized everywhere. So I grew up with this thing. We had this hope. So we let ourselves down. And we let ourselves down because, unfortunately, we came up with, first of all, we could not, our democracy couldn't get grounded in Pakistan. When the democracy faltered, we had the army. When the army came in, they wanted their own puppets, who were not leaders. And so we went into this musical chairs. But I always believed that the moment Pakistan had good governance, this country would rise. And the moment Pakistan went back to its original vision, there was a reason Pakistan was made. We keep forgetting why was it made. The reason given by the founding fathers, the ideological father of Pakistan, the great Iqbal, and what our great leader, Jinnah, Quaid-e-Azam, a brilliant mind, the most outstanding barrister in British India, highest paid barrister, brilliance, man of complete integrity. They all, if you look at the vision of the founding fathers, they wanted Pakistan to be a humane, just society, a welfare state. And we deviated so far from the vision. And nations without a vision die. Why should people want to be part of a nation if there's no vision? So I always believed that the moment our vision, the reason why this country was made, if we could restore that vision, this country has more potential than any other country. Reason why this country has so much potential? Because the best resource are the people. We have dynamic people. I mean, I give you an example. When I used to be playing cricket, India is 7 times the size of Pakistan. We regularly thrashed them. Pakistan had squash players with there were more squash courts in Oxford University. Pakistan had 2 squash champions for 10 years each. Our hockey hardly financed to anything. We had always the talent. People of Pakistan not just had the talent, we had the resources. I mean, since I've been in power, I'm amazed what the resources the country has. Just out of the 14 copper and gold fields we have in Reko Dick, just 2 of them. And guess who told me this foreign company which we are in litigation against, this chairman, I was speaking to him, he told me, he said, do you realize that these 2, the blocks, the profit is $100 billion. Just the profit of 2 blocks. This is just, I didn't know that. Then we have coal reserves. We should never have shortage of electricity. Our own coal reserves. We have the most fertile land. When I went to China, I looked at the productivity of China. It's 3-4 times of Pakistan. We have 6th number of cow and buffaloes in our country. We are number 6. Our per cow liter of milk is 6 liters. In China, it's 24 liters, 20 liters. Denmark, it's 30 liters. So what we have done is that we neglected research in Pakistan. We neglected the basics. Not spending money on our human resources, not spending money on education, not worrying about the education of the masses. It was only for a tiny elite. Which country does it? That only 800,000 children go to English medium schools, 3.3 million children in Urdu medium schools, 2.5 million children in Dini madrasas. No one paid any attention to it. So now, my vision of Pakistan, we need to return to make it into a welfare state, inclusive development. Our whole idea is now that after the 60s, there's the second government which is going to spend money on industrialization. We are giving incentives, encouragement. We want to promote industrialization because that will create wealth. And from that wealth creation, we want to spend money on the bottom tier of our society. So we have already, despite limited resources, we have the most ambitious poverty alleviation plan called ESAS. I mean, we have allocated in very difficult times 190 billion rupees, the highest amount ever for poverty alleviation. My belief is that if we can concentrate on the bottom section of our society, the government facilitates investors, industrialists, makes it easy for them to do business. In our first year, we have gained 28 places in ease of doing business. Improve our governance system. I honestly believe that we will release the potential of our people. Let me tell you where the challenges are. The number one challenge is, and by the way, I was reading a blog of Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad. Now remember, he is probably the greatest statesman of the Muslim world. His achievement in transforming Malaysia, everyone knows about it. Now, and 20 years he was in power. And when I read his blog, he might as well have been talking about Pakistan. He said the problem they're facing is from an entrenched, corrupt status quo, which has been removed after 50 years, one-party system. Same us. We are up against a corrupt status quo which ruled Pakistan for 30 years. And they are entrenched and they have linkages, people who benefited from a corrupt system. So our biggest challenge is facing these people, spreading gloom and doom every day. Every day some sort of scandal comes up which is blown up, all orchestrated. Basically, they do not want the government to succeed because us succeeding means not just them out of power, but they will end up in jails, which some of them already are. Malaysia faces exactly the same thing. Secondly, we face deteriorating, degenerated institutions. What corruption does, number one thing, what the corrupt do is they destroy state institutions because that's the only way they can make money. If I want to make money, I have to hamstring all institutions that dispense justice. So that's a big problem. You can destroy state institutions very quickly, but to restore them takes time. So we are in the process. It's a slow process, but gradually, we institution by institution, we are restoring them. The other problem we face are these huge debts accumulated by the previous government. Our first year, the total amount of tax we collected, which was 4 trillion, 2 trillion went to debt servicing. How do you fund health, education, everything when you just are left with this small amount of tax collection? This year we have to, our debt servicing is 3 trillion. The other problem we face is actually the biggest challenge is the energy sector. We have this huge circular debt in electricity. And because of this, which is almost, I think, 1.5 trillion, 1.7 trillion. Now, 1.7 trillion circular debt means every year we have this huge interest on this debt. So that is a big challenge, and we have decided when we go back, we will get all the stakeholders. We are going to discuss how, because we cannot put more burden on the consumers of electricity, because these interest payments, so this is the other challenge. And of course, the problem is that you give expensive electricity to the industry, to especially the small and medium industry. So it reduces our competitiveness in exports. So this is a big challenge. The direction we have taken is industrialization, which means wealth creation. Secondly, export-oriented growth. So far, our problem have been that our growth rate goes up, and then we have a bit of a boom, and then we go bust because we then end up with a big current account deficit, and then we have to go to the IMF. This time, what we're trying to do is, the big difference is export-led growth. And so this change, of course, is quite painful because the growth rate has to come down. People are hurting in Pakistan. As I keep mentioning, I've never faced so much abused and hammered so much in the media as I have in the past one and a half years. Being in public, I, for 40 years, used to criticism because, when you lost, you knew what you were in for. When you won, you had. But this 1.5 years has been exceptional. I really had to develop a very thick skin. In fact, thank God, mercifully, I know all the dynamics of bad times. So the first thing you do is do not read the newspapers. And secondly, do not, whatever happens, do not watch the evening chat shows. I try to make my team, my cabinet, I make them try and understand these dynamics of bad times. Problem is, they watch the chat shows and they come. I watch them in cabinet meetings, all shell-shocked, sitting there. So anyway, don't worry, I'll get them on the same page soon. But we have to. The situation which Pakistan is, where you have this huge interest payments on these debts. Secondly, not very functional state institutions. This process, if we want to change course and improve and achieve our potential, we will have to go through this difficult time. And interestingly, I was reading in the blog, Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad saying exactly this, as be patient. I tell them, ghabrana nahi hai. He says, be patient. 2 years or so, we will have to struggle for a while. But I feel, as I see the potential in the country, I feel that once we stick to these reforms, it'll take a lot of political will. It'll take courage to withstand all this criticism. My only thing is I hate to see unemployment, people hurting at the bottom level. And we hope now that our SARS program will kick in and we will provide safety net to the bottom tier. But whatever happens, anyone, when you have a sick economy, when you bring in reforms is a painful process. I keep telling them, look, it's like we all want to go to heavens, but we don't want to die. Or maybe it's a bad example. It's like, we want to cut out the tumor, but we don't want the operation or feel the pain of the operation. So it is going to be difficult. But I do feel that we have, the first year has been, in my opinion, we have done remarkably well in the sense that our current account deficit, which is the one biggest thing, anyone looking into an economy of a country, the one thing they look upon is your current account. Is it a deficit or a surplus? Surplus means you're well. Deficit means you've got problems. So we reduced it by 75% in the first year, which I think is a great achievement. And that is reflected in the rupee stabilizing, in fact, gaining a little bit. It reflected in the stock market now, which has regained all what it lost. And it's reflected in investment, foreign investment. In the last 1 year, we had 200% increase in the foreign investment. So the direction is right. But I still feel that, we have a struggle ahead. But I'm an optimist, and I think we are on the right track, and I see good times ahead for Pakistan.
Thank you. We are a little short of time, so we're going to have only a few questions. Please, after that, yes, please. Please identify yourself, Adil Sahab. Yes, Adil Sahab, please identify yourself and then ask the question.
I am your fan since 70 years.
When you were in school.
Punishment I want for the doctors who gave prisoner a chip that he's going to die in 2 days and he's moving around in Harrods and having breakfast, lunch and dinner everywhere. Please give some punishment to the doctor.
Thank you. Next question, anybody?
Sorry.
My name is Wasim Bhatt. I am member of City Parliament Heidelberg, and I am first Pakistani. He won election in Germany with zero chance, with zero opportunity, with zero money, and win with about 80,000 votes. My question is, पाकिस्तान गवर्नमेंट के पास कोई ऐसी प्लानिंग है कि जो दुनिया में जो भी पाकिस्तानी जो इस एबिलिटी रखते हैं कि वो एक ऐसे नेटवर्किंग में आए कि वो पाकिस्तान के लिए मेरा ख्याल ये है कि वो बहुत ज़्यादा काम कर सकते हैं, हम ला सकते हैं. क्या गवर्नमेंट के पास ऐसा प्लान है कि जो बाहर ऐसे लोग हैं उनकी नेटवर्किंग एक ऐसा एक चेन बनाएं जिसमें वो
ठीक है.
मैं इसका सिर्फ जवाब दे दूं आपके लिए. The greatest resource of Pakistan are the overseas Pakistani. Some of our best minds, some of our best professionals, some of our best entrepreneurs are sitting outside Pakistan. And what we are trying to do is to create that environment for them to come back. Some of them are already back. My finance minister was somewhere in Egypt, where I don't know where you were, Dubai. Raza Bakr, our state bank president, was in Egypt working for IMF. There's Tania, who was in Singapore, Google. So we already have attracted overseas Pakistanis. And we will keep creating that environment for them to come back because they are our best resource. And I always believe that as we are making it easier and easier for people to do business, the cleaner governance we give our overseas Pakistanis, the highest amount of foreign investment, I believe, will come from overseas Pakistanis, small businesses, small industries. I believe that will be our biggest strength, which will create employment in the country.
Yes, please. Yes.
My name is Khurram Shehzad. I'm a representative of. My name is Khurram Shehzad. I'm representing PTI Switzerland. My question is, first of all, sir, thanks a lot for representing us over here at Davos.
Ask the question, please.
As Pakistan's Prime
Thank
Minister,
you.
that's a pride for us. My question is there a plan for the government? Because your vision is clear. You want to make Pakistan a welfare state. You want to make it a social welfare state as well. The strategies are in place. You have new programs which are in place. But what we lack is the implementation on ground. It's the practical implementation of these policies. That is something which you are lacking. So is there a comprehensive plan to make it show? Because there's a lot of dissatisfaction amongst the masses in Pakistan as well and in the overseas communities which we are representing.
Thank you.
Look, I repeat that, when you are going through a process of reforms and specifically institutional reforms, you cannot hope that one institution, the moment the government changes, it improves. Especially in our case where it's the first time PTI has been in power at the federal government level. So therefore, it is a slow process. As I said, you can destroy an institution immediately, but to build an institution does take time. And especially when, when unfortunately the government institutions were used as giving employment to people. So they're all bloated institutions. I give you an example of health ministry. We examined the health ministry and we discovered out of 370 people working in the health ministry, there are only 15 with health background. The rest are all just people given employment there. So it's same with PIA, same with railways. All government corporations have been loaded with these people with no work. And so as we all know that if for one job you have 3 people, no one will work. And this is what we face. And then when we bring the changes in, unfortunately, they go to the courts and get a stay order. There was a case in one of the hospitals, we discovered that in the Cardiology Institute, the mortality rate was 25%. Out of 125 used to die. So we removed the head of the department. He got a stay order and was there for 6 more months. So it's, there's a whole process of change takes time because we now, with the new Chief Justice, we are going to sit down and work out how to stop this nonsense where they can all go and whenever you try and remove someone, unless you have a process of hire and fire, incentives and punishment, no institution can work. So whenever you try and fire someone, they go and get a stay order. So anyway, there's a whole process. It's a holistic change, and it will happen. It'll take time.
Aisha,
Mr. Prime Minister.
you want to ask? Excuse me. Aisha?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Aisha Nawaz Chaudhry. I'm a member of Parliament from Punjab, and I am from the ruling party of PTI. One of the questions that I wanted to ask was that you mentioned Shaukat Khanum and how you did great work and raised money. But one of the things that we've been seeing is that even at Shaukat Khanum, when you were developing it, there was always a cost to doing those events and going around and raising funds. when we want to represent Pakistan internationally, Ikram Sehgal Saab, people like Imran Chaudhry Saab have stood by us and done great work. But should the government not stand up now and do these things and include it in its own cost to represent itself better?
You see, Aisha, I believe that we should save money from spending all these monies on these expos, which are productive, but a country which, for the time being, is trying to follow a very rigid program of austerity, starting from me. I mean, this visit is almost 10 times less than the previous prime ministers who came here, and Ikram, who came to your show and came up with their pearls of wisdom, but it cost us 10 times more than my visit. So it's an austerity program. But what we feel we should rely on, we have 9 million Pakistanis living abroad. And the GDP of those 9 million Pakistanis, in my opinion, is almost 50% of Pakistan's GDP of 200 million people. So we can use this resource and they can sponsor things. So I'm all for a conservative. I've stopped all my ministers going on any junkets. I don't allow them to go anywhere. Whenever they say I've got a trip somewhere, I immediately cancel it. Then they have to convince me that really it is productive for Pakistan.
Sadaf.
I'm Sadaf Abid. I'm a social entrepreneur. Pakistan has under 26% women in its formal economy. IMF has calculated gender parity would add 30% to the GDP. So what I'm interested in knowing is how are you, in your capacity, increasing women's inclusion? Because when women grow, we will all benefit and Pakistan will prosper.
Absolutely. Not just women and the Lord. You see, what is the Chinese model? Chinese proved to us that if you raise the bottom people, if you raise the standard up, that's real prosperity. In our case, unfortunately, the skewed development where tiny rich people have a lot of money, and there's this bottom sea of poverty. It doesn't work. No country, in my opinion, can ever prosper with this sort of skewed development. So our SAS program specifically targets women. You have to see it. It's a very comprehensive program developed for rural women, poor women, loans for them, how to graduate them, how to raise the level of income, how to get them this mobile phone, give them apps so that they're empowered by directly the money comes to them. So we've gone a great length to make sure that our women, especially the women at the bottom of the social ladder, how we can raise them up.
Imran.
Imran, Your Excellency. Answering, you answered the question very well, but is it on? Yeah, okay. So what I understand from your answer is that while you were not in the government, it was Ikram and friends like me who were there to support you all the time. And I believe now that you're in the government, now we have to support the government. But we are there.
For a while, until we become very prosperous.
Okay, one more question there. So, after that, the last question, please. Second last question.
Hi, my name is Zara Hassan Ali.
It's on.
My name is Zara Hassan Ali. I'm an education and health specialist working with the World Bank. You spoke earlier, very eloquently, I may add, about facing the hard times. To what extent is the government of Pakistan looking at integrating inner resilience programming for marginalized populations so that they can indeed have the tools to bounce back when the times are hard?
This is exactly, this is probably not the forum, but I would like you to, in fact, it'll be on our website. We will give you the details of our SAS program. It is one of the most comprehensive program built. The bottom tier, how we are directly giving them cash, then how to graduate them to a high level, the sort of instruments we are using to raise their productivity, rural women in urban, giving them loans for startups. So we have a whole range of things now. The whole idea is this bottom tier of our society, and specifically women.
Last question. One question. That's it. Yes, please.
Mr. Prime Minister Adnan Hassan, nice to see you
Please.
again, hear you again.
We're running out of time. Last
I'll have
question.
to
Just
go on.
please.
The Pakistani people are resilient but are impatient. And the problems that you've inherited haven't just happened recently, they've taken multiple generations. How do you teach us to be patient as reforms kick in?
It's exactly what Mahathir Mohamad keeps telling Malaysia: be patient. You know, you see, it is. I have to say that it has, as I said, it has been the most difficult 15 months of my life. I have never experienced so many problems on multiple fronts. It's not just one issue. It is just firefighting on so many different fronts. The main thing was, of course, the stabilization of our economy. We were worried for a time that we would default on our loans, and the scenario of a default is it's the ultimate nightmare scenario. So we faced these very difficult times, but then there were all these other problems because, you know, there's a neglect of state institutions. Then we have people at the bottom level. Then the education system, then the government corporations which are bleeding. So it wasn't just, it's not facing problems in one domain. But what I feel is that we are getting ready to give people a comprehensive roadmap now. Because we now know what we face. We'll prioritize the problems and the solutions. And we are going to come up with a roadmap telling people that, look, these are the challenges we face. This is how long it will take for us to get out. But there's hope at the end, light at the end of the tunnel, because Pakistan actually is a very rich country. I've looked at the other countries. The resources Pakistan has, just one area, tourism. Just imagine Pakistan's. I look at these wonderful mountains here in Switzerland, but I am probably the only Pakistani politician who's been all over Pakistan. Just our northern areas. Just the northern areas of Pakistan are twice the size of Switzerland. And the scale of those areas, Switzerland just cannot compete with it. No one knows about it. No one knows about, only now people are discovering, you know. In Condé Nast magazine, Pakistan is now considered the most exciting tourist destination. Why? Because what has happened is we haven't done anything. This mobile phone has done everything. People go on holidays, they take pictures, they put it on their Facebook, and people suddenly realize, is this Pakistan? And so in 1 year, tourism doubled in Pakistan. 1 year. Just by the mobile phone. So we have not, this is the first time we are concentrated on the tourism sector.
No more questions.
Imagine, just to give you the sort of potential we have beach tourism, probably one of the best on the coast, one of the best beach tourism. We have lagoons, totally untouched. We have one of the ancient civilizations, the Indus Valley civilization, 5,000 years old. We have 4 religions have some of the most sacred sites in Pakistan. Buddhism, Sikhism. For Sikhs, the Makkah and Medina is in Pakistan. I didn't even know that. Hinduism, Sufism, the greatest Sufi sites. And then, of course, the northern areas. But no one knows about it. So now, for the first time, we are working out how to sell Pakistan to the tourists. Imagine Malaysia makes $20 billion from tourism. It only relies on beach tourism. Turkey, $40 billion. And this Switzerland makes $80 billion. Our total exports are $24 billion. So imagine the potential we are sitting on. I'm just talking about one. I'm not talking about the minerals. I'm not talking about if we just double our agricultural productivity, where the country can go, about our export, our linkages with China, CPEC, special economic zones, China wanting to relocate the industries because our labor is now much cheaper So, I mean, the country is, the possibilities are the sky, and I'm not just a born optimist. Since I've been in power, I realize, we are sitting on a gold mine, and inshallah, this country has great times ahead.
Inshallah. Thank you. Another question, please. Last question. I'd like to sum up, please. First of all, Prime Minister, thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in a private-public partnership that you've made a small committee. I'm grateful to Imran. I'm very grateful to Zulfikar Bukhari. And, of course, person who's not here, Brigadier Wasim. We all set it together. And obviously, we got it down to $68,000, I believe. Right.
Right? No. And 68,000. The previous two ones were $500,000. One was $600,000. My trip to the U.S., the United Nations General Assembly, was $160,000. Zardari did it for $1.4 million. Nawaz Sharif did it for $1.3 million. Even, in Punjabi we call Relu Kata. Khakan Abbasi, he did it for $800,000. So I'm just saying that a country which was accumulating in 10 years, 4 times, they increased our debt 4 times. Look the way the leaders were spending the taxpayers' money.
I'd like to mention here that I deliberately put, you have the present and the vision for the future. And both sides of you, I deliberately kept the future of Pakistan on both sides sitting with you. The reason is we have to believe in our children. We have to believe in our destiny. And the Prime Minister is very right. We have the resources, both material and this thing, and we can do it. Now, Prime Minister, I must also thank, with your permission, my friends like Ross Perot has been here for, I think, 12 years constantly. Thank you for Hussain Dawood, to the Titan of Industry, and Zai Kulsum. I would thank them. And thank Eremi for being here. Thank the World Economic Forum team, Andrew Fletcher, who really, really helped us. And not forget Amin, who has sleepless nights putting everything together. The thing is, we have now stabilized. We have the resources for the drive. We would like to show you that that is possible. For this event, we brought together from Pakistan a small group of people from my company and a group. And if you permit me, I'll invite them on the stage to have a group photograph from Pathfinder group, if they can come up, because they are the ones who put all this $68,000 together. पीछे करो आ जाओ उस तरफ से आ जाओ हाँ तुम भी आ जाओ चलो and thank you very much. And if you permit me also, I don't think my family will ever get a chance to get a photograph with you. Come. Aaj Shema. Kashmala? Yeah, aaj. Alia? Kashmala? You were there at our wedding. Yes. Yeah. Come that side. Go that side. Yeah. Go that side. Aaj. I would also, I requested the Prime Minister that just before the ring ad hoc, that I have written a book which has just been launched less than a month ago, and I'd like to invite my co-author, Dr. Bettina Botka, to this thing which we have written, set the record straight about East Pakistan. You know, and we thought that we would.
Nice to
Yeah.
meet you, sir.
This is something which is.
Yeah.
There was no genocide.
And please do read it.
There's no genocide. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Imran, very grateful. Imran, very grateful. Really. I tell you.